Good afternoon, everyone, and I can formally say that actually because this is one of our first afternoon webinars, actually. So thank you for coming today. My name is Tim Sarantonio, Director of Strategic Partnerships at Neon One. I'm going to go ahead and make sure that you can see my screen starting now as we file in for today's presentation. Let me get rid of the item here. For today's presentation, the finish line using GivingTuesday to kick off a year-end peer-to-peer campaign. Really excited about today. We had a fair amount of interest in today's workshop, so I'm going to wait a tiny bit as we let people file in. Hello from Chattanooga. Thank you, Dan. So Dan is actually helping kick things off. Maybe type in where you're from. Would love to hear where you are in the country today. I am talking to you from upstate New York, but we are going coast to coast with today's partner. Corporate Giving Connection is based out, and now Chris, I believe you don't have to unmute yourself if you want to, great, but you have offices, a few different offices, but you were personally based over in California, correct?
Yeah, I'm in Santa Monica, California, and then Brittany is coming out of Brooklyn, New York.
Oh, hey, coast to coast all over the place. That's funny, because Brian from our Rally Bound team is over actually where Chris is, and Brittany, I'm just up, a few hours away from you. So this is pretty cool. All right, so as people file in, I'm going to probably wait till we hit the triple digits for the number of folks that we have in. As you may see, hey, we got a Westchester, New York. Hello, Albuquerque, Garden City, Long Island. Yes, my dad was from Hicksville. Got East Palo Alto. I always mess up that pronunciation, by the way. We got North Carolina, Pennsylvania, Memphis, Ohio, Arkansas. This is what I love about the power of the Neon One ecosystem. You got folks from everywhere. I don't know if we have any Canadians. If we got any Canadians, love to hear from you. Hey, Ottawa. Thank you, Tanya. Schenectady. Hello. I'm in Niskayuna. Hello, Emery. Very cool. So using that Q&A, that also means that we are going to be paying attention to that. So we're going to get started very shortly formally here. We got London, Ontario. Very cool. Connecticut, suburbs of Washington, D.C. So really awesome to see folks from New Orleans and Ohio and California and Ottawa, and that's what's really cool about these types of things that we're doing. And so I'm actually welcoming you formally to Neon One's peer-to-peer accelerator series. This is actually kicking off a 6-month accelerator series. We're going to give you a tease on what's coming a much later after, but we have 6 workshops like this that are going to kind of help drill down. This is not the basics of peer-to-peer fundraising. This is going to help kick off things where we're going to get really deep and detailed, and we're pairing that up with service partners and doing client spotlights throughout. So we're really excited about this series. Aloha from Hawaii, Carolyn, thank you for joining us. So we want this to be useful for you. We are hitting a very important time in terms of people's end of the year planning. We're going to get into some resources. We have a lot to happen for you. If you don't know who Neon One is, we are a technology and services ecosystem that provides a lot of different software, including a enterprise caliber peer-to-peer platform. And so we have an expert from that platform, from our implementation and client facing team, Brian, with us today, who's going to be able to walk through practical ways that you can kick off a campaign with the Rally Bound platform that we have. But what we also love is that we are going to be able to pair this with really amazing folks who know what they're talking about when it comes to running peer-to-peer. And so we have 2 members from our partner, Corporate Giving Connection, Chris and Brittany. We're going to do some formal introductions to everybody very shortly. I'm going to be turning off my camera in just a moment, but some basic housekeeping as we get into the agenda today. So let me go ahead and turn off my webcam. We're going to do some basic introductions. Of course, we are excited to bring these experts together for you and curate this workshop for you. And so we're going to dive into the mechanics of why Giving Tuesday. So Giving Tuesday is obviously something that a lot of people know about. It's a worldwide movement. We're going to talk about why peer-to-peer actually matters. We are very close partners with the team over at Giving Tuesday who helps coordinate things. And through no coordination, though, just serendipitously, they actually just tweeted about an hour ago, hey, why don't you think about launching a peer-to-peer campaign on Giving Tuesday? Well, guess what? We answered that call. And that's what today is all about. So we're really excited about that. So we're going to get into the mechanics of why Giving Tuesday can be great to kick off a overall year-end push. The Fundraising Effectiveness Project just came out with data that's actually in conjunction with Giving Tuesday, and it's the largest analysis of individual giving data in the world. Neon One is a proud partner with Giving Tuesday and the Association of Fundraising Professionals. And giving is up, folks. Q2 data just came up. Donations are up 7.5% compared to last year. Okay, that might be surprising to you. It's not to us because people are really stepping up. They're making asks, and peer-to-peer is really driving a lot of excitement there. So we're going to talk about how we can use that as a framework and a engagement strategy starting on Giving Tuesday, but leading through year-end preparation. So CGC is really going to kind of help take us through there, talking about marketing there, and then we're going to get into a little bit of an intensive dive on how to practically do this with technology, and that's where Brian's going to get tagged in. We also did provide some further resources. So the Neon One team is here. If you are having issues with audio or asking if this is recorded, yes, it's being recorded. You're all going to get an email tomorrow with these resources, with the recording if you have to leave early or if you're watching this tomorrow. So rest assured, we'd love to have you here live because we have some interactive elements, some polls, and of course we want to answer your questions. But if you got to go, at least make sure to download the slide deck PDF because it actually has some clickable, detailed resources that we literally just came out with, as well as links over to some help that CGC is providing folks. And then we're going to give you a tease into the next few months of workshops. So we're pretty excited about this accelerator getting kicked off today. So with that said, let's go ahead and formally get started. And we want to help frame how you should be thinking about this. So this is from Michelle Tillis-Letterman. Nice quote. Forget about the bully on your shoulder. Now is the time to champion the cheerleader. And when we talk about this, it's actually championing the people who are most passionate about your mission. And peer-to-peer fundraisers are really key exemplify that. So that's why we're excited to kind of drill into this unique and very fast growing part of how people do engagement appeals and overall revenue generation for any size organization. So first, I want to kick it over in terms of our first expert, Chris Hammond from Corporate Giving Connection. Chris, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself before we kick it over to your team member, Brittany?
Absolutely. So I am the CEO and founder of Corporate Giving Connection. As you guys heard, we have offices in Los Angeles and Brooklyn, New York. We're a full-service marketing and fundraising agency that focuses on advising, strategy, and day-to-day execution for both marketing and development for nonprofit organizations. And I wanted to give a couple interesting facts about myself. You guys can see the important stuff, but I also wanted to let you guys know I love spicy food. So if you have a recommendation that's around here, I want to try it. And I love electronic French pop music. So if you guys have ever wanted to learn about some French electronic music, go check out French 79. It's going to rock your world. That's it for me.
Chris, I love those, and you set the bar pretty high in terms of our everyone's going to have to step up to this. So in terms of that, hey, Brittany, tell us a little bit about you.
Thank you so much for everybody who's joining us, first of all, and we're so glad to be here. I'm Brittany. I'm the director of nonprofit development. So I work with Chris at Corporate Giving Connection. For me, I got started first in the nonprofit program side of things and then transitioned over into development. So it's been really great to work with clients of all different sizes with all different levels of resources and just kind of peek behind the curtain and see how everybody's doing things in terms of their fundraising. So it's been great to be able to be creative and solve problems for people. My little fun facts I added. So I'm originally from Cleveland, Ohio. I'm an Ohio State Buckeye. So whoever I know somebody's on from Ohio, so go Bucks. And I love to bake, and that's it for me.
So what's the last thing that you baked?
I recently made pumpkin oatmeal chocolate chip cookies. It was actually a Trader Joe's mix, so I used a little bit of a cheat, but they were good.
Trader Joe's stuff is pretty awesome, I have to say. So
Yeah.
I'm a big fan there. Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. And it's that like best time of the year for that type of thing. So somebody George asked Brittany willing to share the cookies. So maybe time to get them in the mail, I suppose.
I would love to. I don't know if they'll keep well shipping, but we
Well, I have had
right.
a dream of a Neon One ecosystem cookbook, folks. So maybe we can make that happen. And then Brian's on the Neon One team. I love working with Brian, and he really helps guide things through. He actually even helped me out today because I'm doing a peer-to-peer virtual Ragnar relay for my sister-in-law's memorial charity. So I bothered him with tech items earlier today. So Brian, tell us a little bit about you.
Hey guys. Yeah, so I work mostly in the pre-sales and implementation phase of clients working with a Rally Bound to kind of figure out your needs and make sure we meet them and then get you up and running. And when I'm not doing that, I like to be in the sunshine. And those are various different ways I like to be in the sunshine listed there. Hopefully this weekend I'm going to go see some aspen trees up in the Eastern Sierras.
Well, awesome. Well, thank you all for joining us. I'm excited to kick in. You know what I'm going to do for a tiny bit here is tag in and give a little bit of contextual information on the importance of Giving Tuesday itself. There's been tons of webinars. We actually had a webinar with Giving Tuesday recently themselves, so we're not going to tread too much here because there's a lot of information on the importance of Giving Tuesday. But in general, it's big and it's growing. And for the first time last year, they actually started tracking offline gifts, and when taking that into account, and people are still doing checks. That's the thing, and even peer-to-peer fundraisers are still facilitating those types of transactions. So when you take into account both credit cards and things like checks, it's just people are giving, and that's just a really good thing. These trends are continuing for generally into 2020, but last year Giving Tuesday itself was massive, really big. And actually, Neon One's ecosystem contributed about 36 million or so to this near 2 billion number. So our clients are really effective. We find Giving Tuesday to be an amazing vehicle for engagement and growth to really kick off an end of the year campaign in particular. And just in terms of participation, 13% of the US population alone was a part of Giving Tuesday. People volunteered, lots of people donated. Just participation is generally up, and that actually has carried over into 2022 when Giving Tuesday now launched in May. And we just saw some really amazing campaigns and growth and things of that nature there in the Neon One ecosystem in particular. So peer-to-peer is a pretty important part of that. You know, in general, Giving Tuesday is changing generosity and behavior. When done right, campaigns can be extraordinarily effective. 84% of people who are aware say Giving Tuesday inspired greater generosity in them. The much sought after millennials, the 18 through 34-year-olds and a little bit older in general, when you get into the bucket of what that age is, but millennials, Generation Z, those folks know and participate. So it really drives, and that's why peer-to-peer tends to be very exciting, because a lot of times those folks are really excited to do a peer-to-peer campaign, Facebook fundraising, things like that. It's sticky. The data is very clear that if you participate, 2020, somebody said in terms of, I did not say 2022. So I know that it seems like where are we going, but 2020 compared to 2019. And the data is pretty clear that if you do a properly run Giving Tuesday campaign, that you're going to see success, and those people are going to be retained as well, which is always important. And actually, we're doing this kickoff to the Accelerator series in particular because people are starting their end of the year giving and end of the year planning right now, actually. So 53.8% of nonprofits start their planning for end of the year appeals this month. So, but yeah, it's a really important time. Would love to hear if you've actually started your planning yet. But we'll get into those types of poll questions a little bit later also. So now I'm going to hand it over to the team at CGC to start to talk about year-end giving preparation, utilizing Giving Tuesday as a kickoff point.
Awesome. So we're going to start out talking a little bit about the preparation, so what your team's going to need to do on the front end before your campaign even launches, and starting it off with a campaign theme. So the first thing you're going to want to do, pick a catchy theme, so something that all of your donors and your fundraisers can rally around. And the most important thing we feel like is that it's something that's easy to understand. So something that's related to your organization's mission and your program, something that your supporters can easily connect with. And one thing we like to suggest for people to do is to focus on a specific initiative. So instead of just kind of putting together a campaign for the organization as a whole, maybe focus on one program, so there's a goal that's clear and measurable. So for example, maybe if your organization for some reason needed to build a new gym facility, so you might say we need $10,000 to cover the cost of building this new gym. So that's really easy for people to understand and wrap their minds around. And then another thing we like to suggest is to incorporate different levels of giving, which is easy to do on a lot of the different peer-to-peer platforms. So maybe starting at $25, going up through $2,500, or whatever makes sense for your organization and for your constituency. And then assigning different values to each of those levels of giving. So maybe you could say $25 buys new basketballs for your gym, or $1,000 buys new uniforms. So you are giving people an idea of exactly where their money is going. And donors really like that, to be able to visualize what their donation is achieving for the organization. It also helps to pick a theme that translates nicely into a catchy hashtag, especially if your organization is active on social media, if you've got those younger supporters that are active on social media. So that's something you can put at the top of your emails, on your campaign website, and in all of your marketing content. So you want to pick something that can translate into a nice, catchy hashtag, something that's unique, so that you're not going to be kind of bombarded on that hashtag with a million different campaigns and different things like that. So really just the overall idea is to keep it nice and specific so that your organization stands out. And then on the next slide here, we have an example of a really, really great campaign that the Greater West Hollywood Food Coalition does. So this is their Sycamore and Romaine campaign. So what they did is they actually had a celebrity photographer take portraits of their clients for their campaign. So as you can see, the images are, they grab your attention, and it really gives that a face to their mission. It really helps people connect with what they're doing. So this is a great example that we'd like to show. In terms of storytelling, so the goal with any campaign is going to be to have a lot of different touch points, but all of them have one united message, because sometimes it can take a little bit of poking to get people to actually take action and make that donation. So you want to engage people across several platforms, but you want the message to be consistent across all of those. So in terms of email, make sure you're scheduling out your emails ahead of time. Make sure they're all written ahead of time, because the biggest thing is that you want them to paint a picture and to tell a cohesive story. and every good story has a beginning, middle, and end. So you want to make sure that your emails are working together to tell that story. And same with social media. So social media should complement your emails. It should come with additional imagery, maybe some videos, testimonials, things like that, but everything should work together to ultimately tell the same story. And one thing that I would add in there is just to be mindful of mailing lists. So if you're sending out a lot of emails, you're posting on social media, maybe you're even sending direct mail, which I think we're going to talk about a little bit later in the presentation. The physical emails still not dead, but whatever you're doing, just be mindful of your mailing list. So if somebody has already taken that action and made that donation, make sure that you're not continuing to bombard them with emails, because that can be irritating for people. And then this next example we have is an example from Charity Water. And this is just a really great example, again, of how imagery is really key. So in this example, you can see we've got this inspiring image changing someone's life story. So that, I mean, I look at that catches my attention, that inspires me. But the biggest thing is that there's a very clear call to action on here. So what are they asking you to do? They're asking you to donate. And there's not a lot of text on the page. There's not a bunch of material to read through. So if I got this email, it would be quick and easy for me to look at this and read through and understand exactly what they want me to do, which is to donate and support their mission. In terms of content, so it takes a while to gather all of the content that's necessary to put on a good campaign. So you want to give yourself a lot of time to do this. So especially for social and email activations, you'll need a ton of content. So starting with images. So we saw some of those examples about powerful images. So if you have the opportunity to have a professional photographer do some images or some videos for you, that's great. If not, I mean, everybody's got iPhones or phones that have really, really good camera quality now. So you can really quite easily put together some really compelling images on your own with whatever staff you have available. But just make sure that you have those powerful images that stand out and really give that face to the organization, because attention spans these days are very low, especially scrolling through social media. We all get bombarded with tons of emails from different companies and organizations, so you want to make sure that yours is able to stand out. If you're including a video, just make sure it's quick, you know, a minute or two or less is even better, because people aren't going to sit and watch a 5-minute video, most likely. So just be sure that you're respecting people's time and attention span, and that you are including those eye-catching components. Another great thing is to include stories. So we talked about storytelling. Including stories and testimonials from people that your organization has impacted are super, super important. Even if it's a video, even if it's not the most professional thing, hearing somebody's story from them and watching them tell their story can be really, really impactful, and sometimes even more meaningful if it's not very, very produced. Including statistics. People love to read statistics now. Those are very eye-catching. Like I said, short videos and quotes. So maybe you post, you know, an image with an offset quote that just grabs people's attention. You just want to make sure to give yourself a lot of time to start gathering that information, especially if you're relying on your programs team or other people to gather that type of content for you. It takes a while to compile that. So just make sure to give yourself a lot of time, and just try various methods to see what works. So if you're sending out emails, try some videos, see if people are clicking on the videos. You know, what are the click rates that are happening when you send videos versus when you just are including images. You can pay attention and kind of play around with those things and see what your supporters are responding to. And then the biggest thing, like we talked about on some of these previous examples, is having that clear call to action. So what do you want people to actually do when they come across your content? So chances are, if you're doing some kind of Giving Tuesday or end of year giving campaign, the main calls to action are going to be one of two things: either to donate, or in the case of peer-to-peer, to join as a fundraiser. So you want to figure out which asks are you making and which messages, because you really want to focus on one at a time. So maybe you want to segment out your list. So maybe you have your sights set on board members or committee members or volunteers to be fundraisers. So maybe making the initial ask to them be, will you join us as a fundraiser? And then maybe you have a ton of people that are on your newsletter list or your kind of your general listserv. You know that not every single person is dedicated enough to be a fundraiser, but maybe they'll at least make a donation, no matter how big or small that is. So just be conscious of who you're asking and what the clear call to action is for that person. And then I know that we have this National Ovarian Cancer Coalition. I think this is an example that Brian, you wanted to talk about?
Yeah, absolutely. So basically, these are just some guidance or steering for people who might be interested in raising funds for the organization but don't have a clear plan. And so the idea is, by representing these icons here, these kind of guide people towards something effective that they can do that's easy to do as sort of a, gimmick's the wrong word, but a cause through which they can raise funds for an organization. So these are essentially suggestion cards leveraged during the registration or sign-up process to make it easy.
Yeah, and I would just add to that, I think now that a lot of us have had to cancel events and things, 5Ks, walks, galas, things like that used to be in person. So you're kind of missing some of those opportunities to get everybody together. So I think that this is a great example of how you can still give people activities and options of ways that they can be involved, even if it's just virtual. It's a great idea to still get people involved in that way.
Awesome. So we're going to get people involved now a little bit, ideally, in terms of, we're going to launch a quick poll for you, which is what types of marketing, because we're going to shift into that shortly. And so this is multiple choice. Choose what you use. What types of marketing do you utilize for your peer-to-peer fundraising? All right. I will share the responses when they come in. We have typically I look for at least half of people voting, or at least 30 seconds worth of voting, which we're coming up to. Interesting. All right. I'm going to go ahead and let this run for another 5 seconds. Cool. Okay, so let me go ahead and share it in terms of the results. So the vast majority, when people are doing their outreach and engagement, are utilizing email. There are some folks who are leveraging direct mail. Social media is tied with email. Some are doing phone calls, and not a lot are doing virtual recruitment events, but we thought it would be interesting to put that in there because that is a thing that we've heard a little bit more about. So to the CGC folks, when you see these results, what do you think?
I think these all make sense. I think the one area that a lot of people still are underusing in terms of peer-to-peer, we feel, is direct mail. We think it's just a nice additional touch point that, if you've been sending 3 to 4 emails over a 4-week period of time, and you've been posting on social media every week, it might be that letter that they open a month later that finally pushes them over the top. So we always just think, if you have the resources and the people on your team to do a direct mail campaign that still has similar messaging, it's a worthwhile endeavor.
Awesome. Well, maybe we could spend some time doing a nice drill into all the different strategies for marketing. So let's kick that off now.
Awesome. Yes, let's talk about it, guys. So Brittany talked about all the different components that are helpful for a successful campaign, but you're really not going to be able to find that success without having at least some sort of a cohesive marketing plan and having the right fundraisers to do it for you. So first and foremost, one of the biggest things that we think is important as Brittany talked about, if you've created that campaign theme and you have a clear idea of what this campaign is going to accomplish and what you are trying, the impact that you're trying to make, it's important to develop messaging that stays and aligns with the overall campaign theme, and making sure that people know where their donations are going to and how this is going to help the organization overall. What we think is very important is if you're going to put together a peer-to-peer campaign, you want to make sure that not only is the organization putting together an email series that is introducing the campaign first. We think that's the first most important thing, right? Because, and a lot of people don't read, but the hope is that you're going to put that in front of them and say, this is what the campaign is about. This is why we're doing it. This is how we need your support. That is that first piece that gets people hooked in. And before you've even done that, there is going to be that segmented list that Brittany had talked about, where you might be sending a recruitment email to a specific group of people that you think could serve as fundraisers or ambassadors on behalf of this campaign. Who we typically suggest, and we'll talk about it later, but annual donors, volunteers, monthly donors, board members, or some people that have reached out to you and said they want to get involved in another way. We think those people should be getting that first email about recruitment, right? And say, hey, we have this campaign that we're trying to put together. It won't be possible without your support. Once you get that team together, and that's going to take time, but once you get that team together, then you're going to want to make sure that you have that email series. So as I said a little bit earlier, having that first email that introduces the campaign, having that second email that is just reminding people about the campaign, and then you have that third email that's potentially going to be creating that urgency. So if the campaign's about to come to an end, or if you've unlocked a specific opportunity for a match, all of these can be used in these different emails, and you should have that cohesive message that's going on. On a parallel track, your fundraisers should have very similar type of messaging. We are strong believers in providing your fundraisers with templates, right? Because I think more than anything, one of the biggest things that we hear from a lot of the clients that we work with, they say, our fundraisers aren't really interested in sending an email out, or they're not really interested in doing social media, and they just don't have the time. Well, one of the biggest things that I can say to everyone that has that as an experience is, if you take the time to develop strong templates for them that is just easy for them to fill in the blank, you'll be surprised. If somebody knows that this is only a 10-minute requirement, a week, and all they have to do is add the people from their network onto an email and press send, you will be surprised on how capable these fundraisers can actually become. So we think that you should have a very similar type of fundraiser messaging as you're doing for the organization. One that introduces the campaign, one that gives them an update on how much they've fundraised up to this point, and then that final one that's creating that urgency. And as Brittany said, we think that you should have that same sort of rhythm and that same sort of messaging from a social media perspective. You should be having weekly social media posts that are telling everyone about the campaign, and finding different ways to storytell, but find different ways to get them back to your campaign landing page. So we think that's very important. One thing that I think a lot of people ask, okay, should we start our campaign on GivingTuesday? And how long should it go for? We hear that all the time. For me personally, I think we're in a crucial moment right now. We're in the 11th hour. And I think in order to put together a strong campaign where you're able to recruit fundraisers, develop all the messaging, build out the content, and build out a cohesive marketing plan, I think that should take about a month's time. And so I think if after you guys get off this call today, I think you guys have the time you need to really build out your resources. What we suggest is, if you want to do a campaign, a peer-to-peer campaign, we say there's no need to launch it exactly on GivingTuesday. As you guys have probably seen, on the day of GivingTuesday, we all are getting emails. Our inboxes are flooded with different organizations and very worthwhile causes. We suggest starting a campaign maybe a week prior or a few days prior to Giving Tuesday, so that you're at least getting a little bit of lead time and saying, hey, this is just the beginning of an overarching campaign. A lot of times with our clients, if we're going to have a campaign that incorporates Giving Tuesday, we want to make sure that we're also including the final days of the year, because statistically speaking, over a third of donations happen on the final 3 days of the year. So we want to make sure that we're giving ourselves the opportunity for that. But I think the biggest thing that I can't stress enough is making sure that you provide these templates and the messaging needed to be successful. So as I kind of alluded to a little bit earlier, direct mail is one of those pieces of the puzzle that I think can be incredibly helpful for a peer-to-peer campaign. I think it's always going to be helpful from an organizational perspective, as I previously alluded to. If somebody is getting that similar messaging and they're like, oh, that just reminded me, I need to give back to that campaign. We always see a lot of those donations coming at the end of the year where they're like, I put that on my fridge, or I put that somewhere. You know what? I'm done with Christmas. I've gotten through the holidays. I want to make sure that I can make a donation now. So I think a direct mail is a great reminder piece, but I also believe it's a very underrated tool from peer-to-peer perspective. We had a client a couple years back that Brittany was really integral with, where they had decided their board had they were a little bit of an older audience, but they didn't want to send out emails and they didn't want to do social media, but they felt if we built out a letter that they could send out to their personal network, and they could add an additional personal note, that they would be successful from a fundraising perspective. So we made it a point where we created that letter. We went to each member of the board. I think there was about 15 members on the board, and they added their personal note, and we mailed it out. And it might have taken a little longer than an online donation, but we saw over $100,000 raised in that campaign just because of that personal touch, and they met their donors where they felt comfortable. Not everybody has donors that are interested in online donations. So make sure that you are trying to diversify your messaging as much as you possibly can, so that you can make it where you can meet the donor where they feel the most comfortable. And if they're hearing from you from email, from social media, and from direct mail, you're only increasing your opportunities to do so. And one thing that I would add to that is, obviously in this current climate, it's a little more difficult to have these in-person type of gatherings, but we always feel, a cocktail party, a happy hour, a bake sale, any sort of little small get together can always be a great alternative for a fundraiser to try to tap into their network, where they're not just making a cold hard ask, but they're actually making this something where they can engage together and they can have a more organic ask. So those are also things to keep in mind as well. So one final piece that I think is very important is building out an overarching calendar. For us, we build out calendars for our fundraisers and for the organization. We want this to be something where we are, on Mondays, we do this type of social media post. On Tuesdays, you should be sending this type of email out to your friends. We want to build out a calendar where there is an overarching theme, and each day is getting a different type of rhythm and a different type of messaging, so that you're trying to diversify who do you speak to as much as possible. This is really helpful for fundraisers if they know what days of the week or just what they should be expecting. It makes it much easier for them to say, you know what, on Wednesdays, I'm going to carve out 10 minutes of my time to send out a message to my friends and do something on social media as well. So anytime you can build out this calendar and provide the content and the templates needed so that it really is just copy and paste and filling in the blank for your fundraisers. It really is going to put them in a position to be successful. But also, just be sure to check in with them. You should almost be baking into your calendar that you're going to have 2 check-ins along the way, so that you can send maybe weekly check-ins to let them know that they're doing a great job, but also schedule some weekly calls to give kudos to the fundraisers that are going over and beyond, but also to make yourself available to help coach the fundraisers that are maybe having a little bit more difficulty. So that's it for me on these particular parts.
Awesome. Thank you, Chris and Brittany. Really, really great stuff. Especially the templates item is something that I've seen in practice be very effective. In fact, I was, even while you were talking, slacking with our team to be like, we should like do something there. That's really good. But obviously, if you need that type of guidance, CGC is amazing for that. So that's why we're excited to have them be part of this kickoff for our accelerator. They're going to be coming back. Spoilers, by the way. We did actually develop a resource in terms of general outline of timeline for a GivingTuesday campaign, and worked with another part of the Neon One ecosystem who specializes in communications. So that is part of the download that you can get from the handout. Download the handout. You can get right over to the guide there, get a little bit of insight there. But obviously, when it comes to peer-to-peer stuff, that's why we're excited to work with CGC for a little bit more TLC. We do have some questions coming in. I'm going to put a pin on those just for the moment, because I want to make sure that we have time to kind of really drill into how to practically use this. But before we kick in, another poll time. Have you started planning for GivingTuesday yet? And be honest. And there is no wrong answer. Saying no is not incorrect. So really, really high jump in terms of the poll, already over 60%. So I'm going to let this one roll out a little bit. Okay, got about 75%. So I'm going to go ahead and close it up. And people generally have started planning. But again, the data shows that the vast majority of folks start planning in October. It is, check your calendars, only October 8th. So that is perfectly fine. So just kind of, if you did want to get a head start, or folks who have gotten a head start, great. Hopefully some of the items that we're talking about here are going to be very practical and useful for you. And I'm excited to get to the questions that relate to actually direct mail. But what we're going to do is look a little bit into the technology side right now. And so we're going to bring in Brian. And Brian's going to do a little bit of a peer-to-peer intensive on how organizations are leveraging our peer-to-peer technology to kind of bring their campaigns to the next level. So Brian, I'm going to bring over your screen.
Perfect.
All right. So folks should be able to see the information. Yeah.
Perfect. All right. So I wanted to start with this slide. It's actually from a blog, which is actually a couple years old, but it's pretty relevant, from our website. There's essentially 2 pathways that organizations use RallyBound for on GivingTuesday. One is, I would call it prospecting through donations. That's to use an embedded or standalone donation form to really get donations, drive support, but also inject people into this sort of circle of life here. And then the follow-up for those folks is to invite them to become a peer-to-peer fundraiser. And so that's one path. Another path is people who already have a cohort of people that they want to target for that. And to Chris's point, you might want to be targeting those folks in November to try to engage them to launch peer-to-peer associated with GivingTuesday. So we're kind of going to look at both paths here. What we're going to start out with is the most simple path. This is just a form to make a gift on GivingTuesday. It's really easy to set up. Pretty much you're going to have control over all the image, content. These are just the system fields. Obviously, it's processing in test mode because I'm not Elon Musk and I didn't make a $500 gift. But you can leverage matchers here. So if you have an individual, a board member, you have a company that you work closely with that might already be planning to give you a gift for Giving Tuesday, you can really leverage this here by adding a matcher. You're going to pop their logo in, name, website, description, and then a time until they'll match. And what it does is it just simply multiplies the donation to display an effective amount here. So actually really easy to stand one of these up. And you can also repurpose this. So if you also want to do end of year fundraiser, we're now looking at the back end of RallyBound, and this is where I configure the aspects of this campaign. And if I want to make a copy of it, I've already configured my emails, all that stuff. I'm just going to check these boxes. I'm going to do year end, and that's all I need to do to create it. Oh, I'm sorry, I need to put a goal. But that's it. So then I'll be able to replicate it and kind of go from there. So that's at a very basic level, all you kind of need to kick that off. This is a little more advanced example. This client is leveraging the option to use CSS and JavaScript on their forms and embed them. And when they do that, they kind of really dress them up. This looks pretty impressive to me. So they did a good job on this. Now, the other sort of approach to Giving Tuesday is to actually use peer-to-peer fundraising. And so I'm actually going to toggle over to an example here. What we're looking at is the landing page of a peer-to-peer fundraiser. And this one is a little bit COVID specific because not only are we asking people to make donations and drive funds, but we're asking them to do some sort of activity. In this case, we're asking them to go hiking somewhere beautiful. That's probably because I made it and I like doing that. But we're able to show different types of engagement here. So in addition to showing who has been fundraising, what teams are yielding the most, you're going to have also the ability to show a leaderboard and progress for people as they do some sort of physical or intellectual work for you. So this could be reading books, this could be steps, this could be walking, this could be phone calls. Maybe you want to use this for advocacy to have people call on your behalf. Anyway, this is a campaign landing page, and you have full control over each page as a section. You can manage the buttons, you can manage the colors, you can even pick your font. So this is sort of how you would put your content here. In terms of somebody now creating a peer-to-peer page, they would just go through registration, and where they would end up is somewhere like this. So this is my peer-to-peer fundraising page. I have not configured this yet. It's just when I complete registration what I land on. This is a default image that I've inherited. I can quickly change it if I want to my own image. And then I can also edit the content here. So this is my welcome message. I just edit it here. I can link to Facebook so that I can also post whatever I post here will go to Facebook, or folks can comment here. I can make a short URL so that it's easier for me to say, hey, go to Salt Lake/Brian and then donate, something along those lines. And then finally, I can actually really actively sort of blog my fundraising experience if I want to, if that's something that I enjoy. Over here is an example of a fundraising page that is really well built out. All of this content here is added through that fundraiser feed blog feature, and you can really have people tell a story here. So this is something that if you have engaged constituents or even people that you're seeking to engage, you may want to encourage them to create a page and then show them an example like this to show them how to leverage it. One other way that this can be used is if people are doing some sort of event where they are going to be doing something physical or even something visual. Maybe you're having artists and they're going to be creating a certain amount of paintings to donate or something like that. If they want to, they can also put a link here to a YouTube or a Facebook here. So they could do a Facebook Live, which would basically be stored and referenceable here. Same with YouTube. So that's kind of a cool, in my view, way to leverage the system. I did want to show one example. So Becker he's a sort of a bi-purpose person here. So Becker is running this organization, but also fundraising for it. And so as a result, he's leveraged pretty much every aspect of this system to make it as glossy and effective as possible. And so what we see here, this section is Becker's message. But then what we see here from together down all the way to here, this is a section that you as a nonprofit can define. You can put any content in here and make this sticky. So the person will have their own content here. You'll have sort of your global marketing content here. And you can also apply a timeline. So for example, for GivingTuesday, maybe you want to create some urgency. You could have maybe a 5-day timeline fundraise. And every time people look here and they've been invited to donate, they say, oh, I have to give now. Or I log in, same thing. I feel like I have to make my solicitation. So that's a tool that you might want to leverage that I think they're leveraging pretty well here. In terms of the process of fundraising, I'm just going to go back here. There are email templates that you as an organization will create. We have this default one, so what you're seeing here is loaded in the system, can be used, or you can build a bunch of your own. So for example, many people will do a first solicitation, follow-up, and last solicitation. Others will do how to outreach to family, friends, coworkers, etc. The idea of this is to make it easy for me, so all I have to do is add somebody from my contact book or simply type in their email, something like that, and then I could hit review and send. Now, in terms of popping my contacts in, most people will probably select one of these options, and it's going to OAuth you through. So you'll then select who you want from your contact. Maybe I'm going to select this guy. Oh, great. Now he's in here. It reloads with Aaron in there. The last thing I wanted to show you here is that if you are doing some sort of activity, you can link with Strava, or you can just have people key it in. So today, let's say I went for 1 mile activity. So that'll update here. And then if we circle back down here, we're just going to see that now that I have a leaderboard of activity too. So just wanted to share that as sort of how you'd go about that. Definitely welcome any questions at the end, but I think we'll turn it back over to Tim at this point.
All right. Well, thank you, Brian, for that kind of high level kickoff in terms of the Rallybound functionality. We got a few questions relating to that I'll kind of address quickly right now before shifting into overall Q&A. Got some really good direct mail questions that CGC would love to have you weigh in on. The first one is, will the donations that come in through the Rallybound page go into the CRM, Neon CRM, if you're using Neon Pay? That's actually one of the cool things about Neon One, is that it's a unified processor across multiple platforms that we have. So while Neon CRM has some very, very light tools for peer-to-peer, as you can see, it's not doing like Strava integration, right? So that's where Rallybound comes into play, is when you really want to take your peer-to-peer programs to the next level. That's why we have it, right? Especially if you're dipping your toes into something. That's great. You know, you got some nice, simple stuff, but people who have like a really, really good, awesome peer-to-peer program that's generating a lot of money for them, they need really good engagement tools, and that's exactly what Rallybound is. But that data does flow into the CRM, and they both can be unified through Neon Pay, so you don't need to go to multiple logins. That's one of the cool things about Neon One's ecosystem. So kind of answers a few other questions in terms of that. And all right, so what I'm going to do is I want to touch on, some other items actually in terms of fundraiser outreach. Chris talked about this earlier in terms of who are some great people that you can flag. Going to be honest, actually, I was supposed to click into this before Brian's section. So these are some good groupings in terms of engagement, but Chris is good. He covered us on some of the people that you should be thinking about for outreach there. And interestingly enough, next week we are doing the 8 segments that you need in your CRM. I am going to geek out about that next week, and these are actually some of the segments that we're going to be talking about. And we already did that. So one thing, Chris, I want to kick it over to you just to kind of talk about the special offer that you're going to be giving folks in the Neon One ecosystem.
Yeah. So just so you guys know, as we talked about before, if you guys are getting ready for a campaign and you just don't feel like you have the bandwidth or the time or even just the know-how to get the most out of your resources and the most out of your fundraisers, we are more than happy to work on your campaign, whether it's for this Giving Tuesday piece or it's for a virtual event or a canceled event or anything of that nature. We're more than happy to help. And this will be mostly comprised of us branding the campaign, providing the graphic design, doing a lot of the marketing, working out your messaging, and building out the templates for your fundraisers, and really serving not only as the people that are going to advise, but also do the coaching of your fundraisers to get the most out of the campaign. So we are offering it at 40% off for all Neon customers and anybody that is actually on this webinar today.
Awesome. And you can find the ways to quickly get in touch with Chris's team, either by downloading the PDF, or it'll be in the follow-up email that we're going to be sending out with the recording. So look, and I'm doing this right now kind of on my own with a very small focus campaign. It's like a virtual Ragnar relay, and it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. I even had an argument with my wife in terms of like the workload about it, right? So like we're good, but if you need the help, get the help. And speaking of help, some of the other things that we're going to be giving away for free is besides kind of directly getting you in touch with the CGC team, and they have lots of great resources on their website too. That's why we're proud partners with them. We've curated over 20 Giving Tuesday specific resources that's on our blog, but you can get to that right from here, as well as some campaign ideas that actually might help you kick off your peer-to-peer focus. So and that's what's so exciting about what we did here, is that this kicks off 6 months of content, 6 months of specific, intensive engagement around peer-to-peer fundraising specifically. So this is kicking that off, but next month we're going to be drilling into live stream fundraising. Spoiler alert, the Rallybound platform that you just saw, it's getting native live stream engagement. Native live stream engagement. So we're going to be debuting that formally next month with our friends over at Firefly Partners. Really, really cool stuff. I've been very, very excited about that for a while. Then we're going to welcome Chris's team back in December, and we're going to dive into do-it-yourself fundraising and overall fundraiser enablement. As you can see in terms of the things that they talked about and the services that they offer, this is where they're really going to be able to geek out. And so we're very excited about that. Love working with Chris and to bring him back in terms of that to help you get into 2021. And also maybe, that last ditch kitchen sink effort as well in terms of the end of 2020. And then we're going to welcome our friend Mark Becker from Cathexis Partners to really drill into and focus on matching and surges. So we saw a little bit of a tease of that with the Brian Love, the Piggly Wiggly item there. But we're actually doing some interesting optimization for that and really taking that to the next level in the next few months with some new functionality for Rallybound. All right, so we do have a few minutes for questions. We are still open for other questions as well. I'm staring at that presently, but CGC team, I got some ones around direct mail. First, I'm going to answer the second one because I know how to engage that. But the first one is, for letters sent by fundraisers, how were their donations gathered? Was there like a reply device included? So for peer-to-peer, I think that's actually a very interesting question. How does it compare to the traditional remit envelope, so to speak? What do you see most effective there for direct mail?
Yeah, I mean, I think for us is just sending an envelope where they can send the check back is the best way to do it. And for us, what we did is we would just add that into the offline donations aspect of the campaign. So that was just the basic way of us doing it. Obviously, if they get it in time where you're, in full swing of the campaign, it will be much easier for you to add it in. But for the most part, those things are trickling in. They could be trickling in for the next 3 months. Sometimes you're just going to get a surprise 2 months later. But yeah, in basic ways, I would just send an envelope where they can send the check on back to you.
Very
And
cool.
then also I would make sure to, in your letter that you send at the bottom, we always include, to donate, you can mail back the enclosed envelope with a check or visit our campaign site and just put the URL to the site right there. A lot of people will end up going online, even with the letter.
Mm-hmm. Or maybe even like texting too. Like if you say like just text here and then it can bring them to the page. That's we've seen some of that actually happen with some of our campaigns too. But like bringing it full circle, I think with direct mail, it's so underutilized. It really is. I'm a huge fan. Okay, so actually on that, and I'd be actually interested to hear the CGC's team's thoughts on this. Is direct mail being negatively affected by problems with the USPS? And I know that with our work as a partner, institutional partner with the National Council of Nonprofits, that there has been some concerns here. When working with your clients, Chris and Brittany, have you seen any delays relating to USPS when it comes to these types of things, or it could even be COVID? That's what happened, or at least originally, with a lot of the larger direct mail house firms. They were saying, look, we're actually seeing some delays here, but those have been generally ironed out. Are you seeing anything with your clients relating to USPS at this point?
I mean, I think up until this point, we most of our clients have been electing to go, virtual and doing everything online. But I think for the most part, I mean, just on previous campaigns that we did before pre-COVID, we never had problems with the mailing aspect of things.
Yep.
But yeah. I mean, I think as of now, the way that I look at it is, if we're expected to vote by mail, hopefully we should be able to get direct mail out as well.
There you go. And there's a lot of lobbying from the nonprofit sector on behalf of the National Council of Nonprofits, for instance, as just one independent sector. Another one that Neon One plays support for these initiatives to ensure that the mail goes through for you. So that's important. How is an offline donation credited to the peer-to-peer fundraiser? I can answer it from at least the rally bound side, but I'd be interested in terms of optimizing the direct mail component there, in terms of making it easy for people, CGC. But there is a feature that you can enter the offline check. Sometimes people are receiving the checks, not the organization. Your grandma gives you a check because you're raising the money and you asked her. And then people can enter that, and then all it is a matter of the organization verifying that the check came in against the name. So from a tech standpoint, there's some automation elements, but CGC folks, how do you see it happening in terms of like when historically people have been doing the direct mail? How does that translate properly?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just you just do an offline donation on the back end. I mean, I think it's really all that simple. You get the check, and then you just do an offline donation. If you have an active campaign, most I haven't done it on Rallybound yet, but most peer-to-peer platforms that we've worked on, there is that opportunity for an offline donation, and you can just add that in there, and you can add the check number and make it being credited appropriately.
Totally, easily, absolutely there. And one of the things that I think in the direct mail piece is just making sure that if you're doing a peer-to-peer specific campaign, just include perhaps a field for somebody to say, who's paid, who are you supporting? Just like ask them that so they can fill in the name. And if you don't get a name, then oops. Or you can go back to your fundraisers and ask them, do you know who this is, perhaps? But yeah. So we are a tiny bit over time. really excited to kick off this series. Want to thank everybody, for coming today. Want to thank all of you for coming today. Want to thank specifically Chris and Brittany and Brian for stewarding us through this presentation. It was a lot of fun. Any final comments for people to kind of energize the crowd going into toward Giving Tuesday?
I think the one thing I would like to just say is, hey, there's no better time than now to engage with your supporters, because they all understand that everybody has been negatively impacted by the pandemic. And so really don't even overthink it. If you just take the time to build out the content, and you get some ambassadors and fundraisers that are willing to reach out to their network, you will be surprised on how many people are willing to help your organization. You just need to put forth your best effort, compile that content, build out those templates, and build out just like a cohesive campaign, and let the donations come in. There's still time to do it.
Absolutely. The Neon One ecosystem found that last Giving Tuesday, 13% of new recurring donations were started on Giving Tuesday, folks. So lot of opportunity to create a really solid revenue stream for your organization. So we highly encourage your involvement on Giving Tuesday itself. Brittany, Brian, Chris, want to thank you so much for your expertise and your guidance today. I want to thank everybody who watched today's presentation, and we're excited to see you at the next round of our peer-to-peer intensive and other things that Neon One's going to be putting out. We got a lot of good stuff this month, so excited to do that. And yes, the replay of this presentation will absolutely be emailed out. Should be tomorrow at the latest. All right. Thank you very much, folks. Want to wish you a lovely Thursday. Thank you for this is the first time that I've actually done a 4 p.m. Eastern webinar, so I kind of dig it. So thanks again for coming out today, folks, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.